You gotta do it deep throat.
Oh, I gotta deep throat it? Okay.
Yeah. As I said that, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be the intro. Welcome to Literary Lushes with your hosts, Megan
and Samantha.
And today we are talking about the book Dune by Frank Herbert. And coming off of that, we are drinking the drink that we had made just a couple of minutes ago.
Yes, and that drink is the Melange Sour, which is named after the spice that the whole plot is driven around.
Yeah. Spice is life. Spice is everything.
The Spice Girls would be so proud.
And it's a very sour drink.
It is. And this book was recommended to us by my brother and one of our loyal listeners, Zach. So thank you, Zach, for the recommendation.
Yes.
He also recommended the Bobiverse series to us. Right. So yeah. So Dune, it was a little bit of a heavy read. It reminded me, obviously it was written first, but it did remind me a little bit of the way Game of Thrones was written, where there was a lot of political things going on and a lot of characters. And at times it did get hard to remember like who was who.
Yeah, I didn't read Game of Thrones. So now that you just said that, I might have to stay away from Game of Thrones. I've seen the show, but it was hard for me. And I'm starting to think that my level of reading is definitely not as high up there as I used to think. I was reading this book and I'm like, wait, what the heck just happened? I had to watch the movie afterwards in hopes that I could clear some things up. And I think it just made me more confused.
Well, and I think there's also an inherently built in, it makes it harder when it's something completely new and they're using like different words and phrases and languages that the author made up. You know what I mean? Like right. Muad'Dib isn't something that
right. I can't. I'm like, use. What the heck is that? And then Ray told me that it was written in like the 60s.
Yeah, this book was written back in the day, which I guess if you think about it from that perspective, must have been mind blowing, right? Because it was right around the time where like travel to the moon was becoming possible and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's probably how science fiction became so huge.
One of the things that was kind of gross to me was, I mean, and I get it, right? Because water was so scarce, but the sill suit, my brain, the sill suits.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. On Arrakis, where you would just wear them and it would trap your sweat and repurpose it into water.
And then you drink it. Yeah. It's like breathe in through your mouth, out through your nose or something like that.
And then like how their saying was like, oh, the flesh belongs to the body, but the water belongs to the tribe. It's like, ooh, I get it again, but
it's also gross.
Yeah.
I was actually, while I was in the shower this morning, I was thinking about how I read an article where in some places they repurpose the water from the shower for your toilet.
So
and I was like, that makes sense because you're not drinking the toilet water. And a lot of times when you're showering, the water's just kind of running. Like you're not, So I was like, that makes sense. But I definitely wouldn't drink it and I wouldn't have it reversed. I wouldn't use toilet water for my shower.
Oh, no. I mean, I guess if you think about it, technically, we do reuse the same water over and over again.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I just don't like to think about it.
Yeah, I know.
First world problems, I get it.
Yeah, no, it was kind of gross. And like when Paul was fighting that guy, the one guy from the front end tribe, and he kills him,
mm-hmm.
and then he like cried over the fact that he like killed a man, and they were like, you shed tears over the dead, like you're wasting moisture.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine where people like yelling at you for crying, like, what are you doing? That's water leaving your body. Stop that.
I know. Unreal. And like in the beginning when they first get to Arrakis, and I think it was Lady Jessica, and she noticed that they had all those palm trees, mm-hmm. and she was, made a comment about, or it might have been the narrator, but like, one of the chapters that was like focused on her about how that's how you could tell you were basically like well off, was the fact that you could have a palm tree because you could afford to water it.
Yeah.
I think Dune is more about politics and about like
Oh, yeah.
sci-fi technology.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, if you have the water, you have the power, which is why everybody's like, well, that and the
And
spice, but like
spice. I was
fighting
like,
over
spice is life, but if you have the spice, then you're rich, and therefore you can have the
the water.
yep.
And also, I mean, I guess if you're born on Arrakis, you don't really know any better, but like, imagine living on a planet where there's just like sandworms also.
That's no. That's cool.
All I could think of was Beetlejuice.
I thought of Tremors.
Oh, also a good reference. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
I was
imagine. And then I watched the movie later and it's like, oh, well, it wasn't too far off.
Yeah, all I could think of was Tim Burton's
Which is a great movie, by the way.
Beetlejuice with Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis
You can
and
don't say it anymore.
huh?
Can't you only say Beetlejuice twice?
Oh yeah. Well, I thought it was like 3 times in a row, but maybe not. But yeah, and they try to leave the house and then they get dumped in the desert with the sandworms.
Yep, that's a good reference.
Yeah, that's just kind of what I kept thinking of, which obviously begs a question of was Tim Burton inspired by Frank Herbert? Maybe. I don't know. I didn't research the topic, but
Oh, then you also have the sandworm that was in Star Wars.
oh yeah.
So they try to, dump everybody in.
So if anybody knows if these sandworm references were inspired by Dune, let us know.
Yeah, then we need to know.
Yeah, I like to be cultured, especially since we do a podcast.
Is anybody cultured when they watch our stuff? I mean, between us being drunk, well, some of us, meaning me, has been drunk while doing podcasts. And is it really cultured or is it really just trash at this
Just
point?
to clarify, by drunk you mean blackout?
I think I've only been blacked out drunk for a podcast once. I think there's been 2 other times I was drunk.
Yeah, and for the listeners at home, if you haven't seen our drink video yet, and if you don't support us on Patreon, shame on you. Just kidding. In light of all the
But you
social
should.
distancing, yeah, you should. In light of all the social distancing that's going on, for the first time ever, Megan and I are in our respective homes and we're recording remotely. So it's very strange not having you within like touching distance.
It's very weird. I feel super odd just sitting here talking to my mic and looking at it without looking at you.
I know. It's weird. Yeah. So Dune had a lot of the political things, but I did also like that there was like he fleshed out like the gender roles a bit, you know?
Yeah.
So Lady Jessica was a concubine, but she was essentially like the Duchess. And she was the a Bene Gesserit, so she was powerful in her own right. And then she ended up becoming a Reverend Mother, and like each like house and like even the front end like tribes and stuff, they all have their own version of the Reverend Mother,
Right.
which is pretty cool because they're basically like the wise women of the tribe.
Which is neat that they're trusting women to be the wise ones.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no man has ever done this and lived.
Oh yeah, with the water that Paul
Yes.
drinks and it knocks him on his ass
Like,
for a
it's
bit.
water of life or something like that. And
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, so no man has ever or every man who's done this has taken it and failed. And she's like, no, every man who has taken this has died. I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh,
in the beginning when he has to
okay.
stick his hand in the
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I did appreciate that the women were like the not the stronger gender, but
But they held their own.
yeah, exactly. They weren't marginalized by any means. And especially for a book that was written like 60 plus, right? 60 something years ago.
Oh my God, has it been that? No, wait. I can do math.
When was it written?
60 years ago, you're right.
Yeah.
And it was written by a man, so
Yeah.
that's also saying something too.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was wondering what you thought about Ewan, the doctor who was the traitor, right? He's the one who sold out the Atreides to the Baron. But at the same time, he kind of also helped the Atreides because he let Paul and Jessica escape. He put the Duke's signet ring in like the chopper for them. And then he gave the Duke that poison tooth. I always want to say poison pill, but it was actually a tooth.
Right, that he had to chomp down on.
Yeah, so that he could try to kill the Baron.
I think he was put in between a rock and a hard place. just because of the shit that happened to him. Like, I mean, would any of us done much I don't know. Like, I get what he did, and then in the end, he tried to, like, make up for it.
Hmm.
I feel like there was a lot of like, I actually was curious to know more about his story, and I wish it would've gone a little
Well,
I
there
don't know. It
are
was
more
interesting
books in the Dune universe, so maybe they flesh him out in one
maybe.
of the other ones. Yeah. And they also, I think it was, who was it that thought Jessica was the traitor? Was it, oh my gosh, what's his name? Gurney, right? Didn't he think Jessica was the traitor?
I'm trying to remember names. The name thing was where I'm trying to and I've had a few of this, I actually finished my drink, so
The
there's that.
melange shower. Shower. Nope. Melange sour.
Yes.
If you support us on Patreon, you get access to uncut episodes, which includes all the uncut interviews with our past guests, including Ailey Martinez, Dennis
Dennis
Taylor, Janet Beard, everybody, and our
future Angela
Angela
Roquette.
Roquette to in the future. Yes, I'm really
Yes.
excited to talk to her.
Unless she listens I was gonna say watches this, but unless she listens to this and is like, "Yeah, no. These girls are white or lightweights, and I ain't doing that."
Angela, we've been housebound. Please don't judge us.
Yes, no one judge us on anything.
So before we started recording, you mentioned that
Oh,
Ray.
yes. Okay, so while I was reading, because I was having such a hard time, and I'm like telling, and Ray's read the book, and we actually own the movie. Did not know we owned the movie. And so he was saying, he's like, oh yeah, it's because like he's like, it's very similar to the whole LSD, like spices LSD, like it opens your mind and it expands your knowledge and this and they're like and I was like, oh, well, that makes it a little more interesting. Like I was able to make the connection a bit better because like I was just thinking of literally like cinnamon spice.
That's kind of what I was thinking at first too, until Paul was like, "Oh, it like opens your mind, but then you become addicted to it. But then if you stop taking it, you die." And I was like, "Oh shit, this is like a drug."
Yeah.
But then also like the LSD thing, I feel like that's kind of also like the Bene Gesserit way, right? Because they like they use a certain tone of voice and they can like control
Yes.
people and they can like read. I mean, I guess not like LSD per se, but
It reminded me if you took LSD and you went into one of those the oh my god, what's the word? The water tanks where you're like completely cut off from any
oh yeah,
sensory.
sensory deprivation chamber.
Yes. So imagine taking like an LSD and then going in there and then someone's just like talking to you. Like that's what I was imagining this spice of and then the voice and using the voice. You're like completely closed off to whatever else is going around you. I felt like the sensory chamber deprivation thing and LSD was pretty much the spice. And then so other drugs, if you stop taking it, it's like, holy shit, you die.
So, what did you think about the fact that the people of Arrakis they had the blue within blue eyes?
It was confusing until I saw the movie. And then the movie made it even weirder. I was like, oh, okay, that's what we're going with.
Well, because I was like, okay, blue within blue. Does that mean they're different shades of blue?
I thought it was like a pretty crystal, when I was reading it, I thought it was like a pretty crystal blue iris and a pupil. Like the pupil was the brightest blue, and then the iris was blue. Like I didn't realize they meant every part of the eyeball was blue. I just thought they meant like of the blue being the pupil inside the blue.
So I thought similar, but I thought for the entire eyeball, I thought the whole eyeball would be blue, and then like the pupil and the iris would also be blue. But I'm like, does that mean they're like different shades of blue, or is it like you look at them as just like one shade of blue?
Yeah. It was really creepy how they did it in the movie. But granted, back in the 80s, graphics and, special effects were a little
I
challenging.
don't know what you're talking about.
I was like, are you being serious right now? Because no, like, have you seen that movie recently?
Maybe like the last time I think we watched it was like maybe like a year ago.
So that, I mean, yeah. I was watching it and I looked at Ray and I was like, why did you keep this?
I mean, it's Patrick Stewart before he was Patrick Stewart. That alone.
I know, but hello, he still looks the exact same.
I know. What is your secret, Patrick Stewart?
Same as Keanu Reeves, apparently.
And Paul Rudd.
Yeah, all of them. They all have the same fucking secret. I want to know what it is.
Maybe they bathe in the blood of their enemies.
Or they're just
Or
aliens.
that. Maybe they're from Arrakis and all this moisture
Maybe.
is just keeping them alive.
Maybe that's the key is the moisture
Mm.
from Arrakis.
Moister than an oyster.
Moisture. Not oyster. Moisture. Are you making fun of the way I talk again?
You've never heard that? You're moister than an oyster?
No.
All right, so I know there was a movie, but it was, gosh, when did that movie even come out? Like the
I
80s?
swear it was the 80s.
According to Google, it came out in 1984.
Ha! Called it.
Sting was also in it.
Oh.
Yeah. He played Fayed Rutha. I'm probably butchering that. Patrick Stewart played Gurney.
Uh-huh.
All right, but so that movie came out before we were born. So fun fact, if you Google Dune movie 1984, one of the results that comes up is Dune the worst movie ever? Question mark. Was Dune a flop? Question mark. Although apparently they're actually redoing one and it's supposed to come out in December 2020.
Ooh. Okay. I'm excited for this cast.
Yeah, well, I guess that takes our work out of it. I guess we don't have to do it now.
Oh, well, that just cut out like 10 minutes of us talking about who to cast.
Rebecca Ferguson is Lady Jessica.
Yeah, I know. I just looked her up and I'm like, really?
Yeah, I didn't.
Huh. Not. You know who I probably would have done? Charlize Theron. I love her.
Charlize
I
Theron.
just want her to be everything. Yeah, however you say her last name.
I was thinking of somebody like, I don't know. I didn't really have anybody in mind, but
Scarlett Johansson would have been another good one. I'm just imagining someone who could be strong and cold seeming on the outside, but then really, cares.
So it might be because I've been binge watching Good Girls lately. Have you seen that show?
No.
But I could also see Christina Hendricks as Lady Jessica. She was in
what is that name? That name sounds
familiar. Yeah, she was in Mad Men.
Didn't see that yet. Oh, maybe these people will surprise us.
Well, maybe Patrick Stewart will have like a cameo, hopefully.
Oh God, I hope so.
Or do you think he's like, no, I'm beyond that now. I never want to relive my Dune days.
I don't know. I think he's also one of these guys that's like, I totally would I would do a nod towards, my past. He did, Patrick Stewart did one of those things. It's like, I don't know if it's Vanity Fair, but somebody does one of those things where you're supposed to read, like if you typed your name into Google, what questions people were asking.
Oh, yeah.
He did one of those, and it was great. I love him.
He's great.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
Mike goes, you could say he's Dune with it, and I'm kind of mad at myself for not thinking about that.
That's funny.
That's a good one. Well, okay, fine, Hollywood, jumping on our casting bandwagon. It's cool.
I mean, they got some pretty good, well-known people in it, so I mean, I would probably see it.
I'll see it. I mean, it can't be any worse than the 1984 version.
I wouldn't say that. There's been plenty of movies that have been made now that have been worse than Dune was.
The only other talking point I had, I just put, well, there's the one that I couldn't read that I crossed out. I still don't know what it says. And I also have Muad'Dib, but we kind of already...
Oh, how his name kills people?
Muad'Dib! And then I enjoyed the fact that it meant like what, little mouse, I think.
Yeah.
And that
I think.
And then, or some little mouse or something like that. And that's it. I mean, that's the name he picks because he knows that's the name that they will refer to him by. So it's kind of meta gaming, but, and it's like, he's so powerful, but the name means little mouse.
Yeah. It's like an oxymoron.
Mm-hmm. Which also kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones because, it kind of reminded me of Sansa a bit on Game of Thrones because they always referred to her as like
little bird. Yeah. Like, reminding her like she's a fragile bird and she ends up being this one that like ruthlessly pokes people's eyes out.
Yeah, she basically ends up ruling.
Her character change was epic.
So I think for sure Dune played a hand in inspiring a lot of other authors that we read and a lot of other...
It's an essential building block, but it was still difficult for me to read. But I'm also dumb, so there's that.
You're not dumb.
Okay, I'm not literate strong as others.
I'm so glad you're doing this podcast with me.
So it makes you look smarter. Thanks.
No, I get it. Like I said, it was a heavy read. Like I started reading it and then I was like, oof. And then Mike was like, oh, I have it. I have the Audible copy. Do you want to listen to it? And I was like, yes, I think that would just help.
Did that help
I
a
think
lot?
so. Because like I said, when you're delving into a world that has all of its own terminology and stuff, like it can be hard to make that
Right.
switch, you know?
And then maybe by the way they read it, it could help with understanding the context. Because, like, you know,
Like The Hobbit is one of my favorite books, but it's like even then it's like you still have to get into that Tolkien world and like that language and everything, and it's like um a lot of the other books that we read, it's based on English, right? They don't really make up names or words or
right.
languages, so you don't really have to think about that. So when you do have to switch gears like that, it can be challenging sometimes. I get it. No worries.
Dune is a classic. It reads like a classic. So if you like classics, there you go. If you don't, there you go. It's also important to read if you're a huge sci-fi nerd to see how far sci-fi has come. And also, like you said, there it's interesting and to wonder if it had a role on inspiring other sci-fi stuff.
So today, instead of a conscious corner, because you guys have probably listened to us ramble enough,
Yeah, bless
yeah,
your hearts.
we have our third ever author spotlight segment, The Ass. And for today's segment, we're going to be chatting with Greg Alvarez. All right, guys. So we are excited to bring back our author spotlight segment, or ASK segment for short.
My favorite.
My favorite segment as well. And today we have Greg Alvarez with us, the author of City Boy. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
Welcome to Literary Lushes. We are excited to have you on here with us for our Ask segment.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Greg, we are so excited to have you. So can you tell us a little bit about your novel, The City Boy?
Well, it's bio based, essentially. Uh, I think I was 50 years old, and I had all these stories that my wife had heard 1,000 times. And she finally said, "Well, why don't you tell these stories to people?" She's heard them around campfires, and all my friends have heard them. So she got me a laptop, and it sat there for a few months. And then one day I knew the first line. And when I knew the first line, I started writing. I just wrote like crazy. I wrote all day, and I read it back, and I just loved it. I had maybe erased a line. Other than that, I just loved it. So I just kept going. And my the big problem was I hurried it so fast. I was telling stories when I was 13, but I wanted to tell stories about when I was 25. So I knew they were coming, and I just had to wait to get there. But so it's a bio. It starts 60-ish, 1960-ish, and goes from there.
So, Greg, I have a couple questions for you. The first one is, where did you grow up?
Uh, Small, well, not big, medium-sized town in Michigan.
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay.
Very cool.
Anybody that knew me would know my story immediately.
You were saying during your initial writing process, it was hard for you to focus on, you were writing a story about when you were 13, but then you wanted to jump to a story from when you were in your 20s. So when you were writing, did you write in chronological order or did you kind of jump
No,
around?
no, it's pretty chronological.
It helps a few of us that are slower readers to understand some of the books that I've read that are like jump around, like, wait, this isn't the same. And then I have to like write it out on a notepad to understand what went in chronological order because that's how I'm a thinker. So,
Yeah.
so people like me appreciate that. Thank you.
And what did your wife think after you wrote the book?
Well, she read it. Who knows? She knows me. She knows me all too well.
So was there anything in the book that kind of surprised her, or did she know pretty much the whole story beforehand?
Well, she might have known it, but she didn't know that I would like to say it. Yeah, it just had to be the real me, and I was excited about the real me. I had a great life. Growing up in the '60s and '70s, I had total freedom. My dad had left, and my mom worked, so she was very bright, intelligent. She gave us my sister and me gave us anything we needed as far as art or experiences, uh, library and movies. So if I said I wanted to hitchhike to Denver, she said okay. And so and so she never stopped us from that.
That's very cool. And
I actually had a question. I'm gonna jump in.
go ahead.
Sam likes to hog all the interview
I
questions.
apologize.
But you were talking about hitchhiking, and I was just curious because like back in those days are very different than
Right,
nowadays.
Mhm.
right.
Which
I was just gonna say.
uh would you hitchhike nowadays?
No, no, I wouldn't hitchhike a block, and that's sad because when we were 17, my buddy and I hitchhiked to Denver out of Michigan. We should go somewhere. We picked Denver. That was 1,000 miles away, and we did. We hitchhiked and we were 17, both of us. We had $25 each in our pocket. No one attacked anybody. Uh, that's the difference between today. When I see a person, when you saw a person back that day, you didn't look at him like, what can I get from this person? How can I take advantage of that person? That was not like that. It was more like, what can I give this person? You know?
Yeah, my mom and my aunts, they were born in the 60s, so they grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and the stories they tell me are just
Yeah.
wild compared to what I was allowed to
Yeah.
do.
My uncle used to say he would take his surfboard and he would hitchhike across the country
Yeah.
and go surfing all the time. And I was like, and of course, growing up, like, what our parents were, I always looked at him like, are you insane? Like,
You got in
that's
a
how,
car with a stranger?
that's how you're going to get your kidney cut out.
I know, right? And that's what I was trying to say earlier was that, like, the person that picked you up wanted to get you there,
Right.
because the adventure you were going to have, they could have vicariously.
Right. They got to be a part of it in some way.
Mhm.
So that was hitchhiking. I then went trucking. I got into truck driving, which I wanted to do when I was 8 years old. I knew I was going to do that. So I started talking about truck driving and different jobs and where that took me. And truck driving across America in the 70s was a gas, and I say that.
Here's a very random question with your truck driving. Did you ever have one of those beaded like backseat covers? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah, 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 sure,
when you
That
said
you
that,
see in the taxi cabs.
I immediately thought of that when you said that.
sure.
So, Greg, before you became a trucker, did you ever hitch a ride with a truck driver?
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah,
And what about once you became a trucker, did you ever pick up a hitchhiker?
sure. Because there again, it was 71, 74. I remember one guy, I had picked up a hitchhiker, and we were driving to Pennsylvania, up and down hills, huge hills. And I told him, I says, listen, if I tell you to jump, I'm serious, because I'm jumping out this side. I mean, I'm telling you, it's over. This thing is going. Well, if I say, we didn't, I didn't even think we wore seatbelts at that time, because you want to be free, you know. I mean, if I open the door and fucking jump, I'm going. you know?
Oh
If
my
I see the driver
gosh.
jumping, I'm jumping.
Yeah, right? Yeah, if the driver jumps ship, it's a good idea.
So, I mean, I have stories like that in there.
Well, okay, I think it's very impressive that you knew since you were 8 years old
What you
what you
wanted to
wanted to
do.
be, because if I listened to my 8-year-old self, I think I probably would have been either a pop star,
I would have been a
private
singer.
a private detective,
Oh, that's impressive.
or an archaeologist. Very, yeah, very, very different. I really, I ended up being a lawyer, so I guess you split the difference.
Kind of a pop star-ish
That's
thing.
funny too, because my mom worked for lawyers, and they got me out a couple scrapes. And in fact, they wanted to send me to law school um, because they thought I could do it, and I passed on it. But I probably should have. But later on, I got into engineering. I was a design engineer. Um,
Oh,
when
nice.
when did that happen? 25. After I got off the road, that was kind of cool. The drugs in the 70s. There's lots of sales of pot and LSD, and I knew people would move pounds around, and I did a little stint, about 30 days. My freedom is everything to me. In fact, claustrophobia is my horror. If you put me in a box, I would die. That's why I hitchhiked. That's why I went trucking. So all my life has been about freedom. And then the same with sex. Sex is a big freedom to me.
And so Greg, did your wife know about these stories before you put pen to paper?
Yeah, she knew about it.
Very cool. I like a woman who can
Yeah.
just say, "Hey, write it down."
Right. Well, then I talk about her later. Uh, and she's in there. I talk about when I met her, things we did. Um, so it's very open, it's very honest.
I think it's important because I feel like, especially in America's culture, sex is such a taboo
So
Right,
taboo.
right,
subject as
yeah,
opposed to some
We'll
like
get
other
we'll actually
countries.
get a rated R movie because there's
right.
some sexual content, but someone can blow somebody away, but
Hmm.
it'd be only like PG-13.
Yeah. So, Greg, in that little blurb that you sent us, it said on the bottom that a live action adaptation was in discussions. Do you have any updates about that?
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, based on your stories, I would love to see like a TV show
Yes.
or movie adaptation about your life. I
Oh,
think that
oh,
would
that
be
was
very cool.
that's a literary agent of mine who is trying to push it to movies and TVs and playwright. Yeah, yeah. I didn't hang around. I kept moving. Motorcycles, girls, drugs, traveling. And also the book is it's tempered with family, and I talk about my grandma and my aunts, who people brought me up, uh, my dad. I talk with I'm in honor about him, and there's no political crap in it. There's no hate. I really don't. I had a great time. I had great adventures. I loved exactly what I did. I need my freedom.
So, Greg, can you tell us and our listeners where we can find your book?
Yes, SophiePublishing.com.
And we can get it on Amazon?
Yes, I think it's on Amazon too.
Oh, Greg, we want to say thank you so much for being on the show with us as our author spotlight segment, which is also known as our Ask segment. Um, we appreciate it so much.
Well, listen, girls. I mean, it's great meeting you. Thank you for letting me talk. Thank you.
So, thank you, Greg, for joining us on our Ask segment, also known as Author Spotlight segment.
Yes. Thank you again, Greg, and thank you for sending us copies of your book. We really appreciate it. If you guys are interested, you can find his book on Amazon. And if you are interested in being one of our honorary asses, please let us know. You will live in the Ass Hall of Fame with some of our prior ass guests, which are Robbie Robertson, author of, he hosts the Out of the Blank podcast. Jason Gwynn, who has several horror themed novels available for purchase on Amazon. And now Greg Alvarez, author of City Boy.
Yay!
Yay!
It's an honor to have you guys as our asses.
Yeah. We probably need a female ass next. We've done 3 men so far.
So, any female authors who would like to be an ass, please contact us.
Yeah, or if you're a content creator or have your own podcast and want to get the word out, let us know. You can find us at literarylushespodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you search for Literary Lushes, you'll find us.
You can just shoot us a message on there.
And then if you guys are really just loving everything that we're doing, or if you're like, oh God, please, they need help, you can find us on Patreon and support us there. We have support levels starting at $2 a month, going all the way up to $20 a month, and you get all sorts of cool shit for signing up. So
we are putting a hold on actually mailing out things until after the pandemic's over.
Yes, we have the t-shirts, the glasses, and the sign up goodies from the start of the year, which was the bookmark, the button, and the magnet bottle opener. But like Megan said, we're waiting to get the all clear before we go to the post office.
Yes, so I apologize if you're still waiting. We have not forgotten about you. We're just doing our due diligence.
But Patreon does have a bunch of other stuff for you, like uncut episodes, blooper reels, written drink recipes, and some patron-only exclusive videos like our gift exchange video, some of our just other random videos and audio tests, our unboxing videos from the packages that Angela Roquette graciously sent us. And yeah, a bunch of other stuff. And we had grand plans for some other videos that sadly had to be put on hold until we can be in the same place. So,
yeah. And maybe in the future we'll start doing things where we'll have a new promo session and we'll sign posters and mail them out.
Oh yeah,
If you want a cute, fun poster of us.
with our signature on it. Hell yeah. So our next book, speaking of, is going to be book 2 in the Lana Harvey Reaper series called Pocketful of Posies by the one, the only, Angela Roquette. Woo! I'm really excited.
I'm so excited. You don't even know. I loved that book, the first one that we read, and so I'm really looking forward to the next book and having Angela on. And she's offering, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you this, but she's sent us the next drink to make with the to go with the book. So, oh, I'm so excited. So, and it sounds like she would actually join in with us on drinking. Like she will drink while we're drinking and
She'll only
talking.
be like, I think, the third one to do so.
Second.
Well, didn't Dennis? So the first one was Chris Pauls and Matt
Oh, did Dennis
Solomon,
do it?
and I think Dennis Taylor was drinking.
Oh, he was drinking something else though. But yeah, I think you're right.
I want to say schnapps or brandy.
Yeah, I think you're right. Good job. Yeah, so she'll be the third one to actually drink with us. So this should get fun and interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and that episode is going to go up on May 14th. And thank you again to Sharon for recommending the series to us. So, as we like to say, stay
lively
with
your
libations.
Woohoo! Oh my God, this pandemic is going to kill us.